I asked you guys as I was on my flight out to Utah last night, what do you think the biggest myths are floating around about this sport, floating around about 2023? Because I had some on my mind. Fortunately, like, your thoughts and my thoughts really overlap. So let's just go through these a little bit. And the first one I wanted to hit, because it came to me in 37 different flavors, was Texas is going to underachieve because of the past. Like, because of what they didn't do under Tom Herman or Charlie Strong or whomstever, Texas will underachieve. It's the whole cannot versus have not thing. Listen, if Texas falls flat again this year, and I don't think they will, I've predicted them to do big things, but if they fall flat again this year, it'll just be because Texas wasn't good enough this year. It will not be because there's some shackle around their ankle from 2013 or 2016. That's fake. That's false. That's a myth. And you just need to put it away. Go sit by the garbage for a second. Think about it if that's where your head's at. If you don't think they'll be good enough along the lines of scrimmage, if you think Quinn Ewers shaving his head was not the key to him turning around his game, if you believe these sorts of things, then okay, maybe Texas is not back. But if they're back or not back, it won't depend on the past. Next myth. I think we did a pretty thorough dissection of that one. Next myth, and this one is 2023, but it's really evergreen. When they try and tell you that if a college football playoff spot or a college football playoff implication is not on a college football game, that it's irrelevant, don't hang out with those people. You don't have to be mean, okay? You don't have to maybe ostracize them or out them publicly. I don't discourage that, but you don't have to. But don't traffic in that. Don't traffic in the who's in mentality, the old marketing campaign that the network that's broadcasting this game tonight launched in an ill-fated manner a few years ago. Now, to their credit, they've backed off of it, but the damage has been done. And so you get in November, and if you got a couple of teams that are playing that you don't think are going to be in the playoff, there's going to be a casual in your social circle that says, well, this is an irrelevant game. If they're your friends, backhand them. That's fine. Like, you can get physical with them. But that's a lie. That's a lie. I told you guys, once upon a time, once upon a Saturday, as it were, I went to a North Carolina-Georgia Tech game, and they were horrible that year. But everyone was into it. It was the pre-playoff era. It was a simpler, more innocent time. I was more innocent because I was a child. Everyone else was more innocent just because they weren't focused on the playoff. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Next up, this is a myth that will step on some toes, but it's a myth that we do have to touch on. Some of you are in a delicate family situation out there this year, and you've loved this sport for a long time, and they've told you that you have to spend more time with the family this year. Now, that is technically a myth. Like, you don't have to do that. But I will counter with this. If you have the right dynamic in your family, if you have the right dynamic in your marriage or in your relationship, I don't think it has to be an either-or proposition. Like, are you with a real one? And I'm talking to guys, I'm talking to girls. If you're with a real one, they're not making you choose. They're every bit as jacked as you are. Or at the very least, they're very excited to see you excited. And if they're not, that's a little bit toxic, and I just have my hands lifelessly hanging by this director's chair right now because it saddens me to know that some of you are out there in these situations. You don't have to be. I'm not trying to be a homewrecker here. Obviously, there's no one to my left or right, so I'm not splitting up any relationships. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be an either-or thing. And if you are watching or listening and you're allowing yourself to be drawn into putting someone else in that position, it's not too late. Like, we're on the precipice of week 1. It's not week 9. The damage has not been done. So let's just think about it. Let's think about how to make everyone happy, not just ourselves. I'm not going to get into the fall wedding thing today. You know my thoughts on that. Next up. Now, I did not see this, but I have it on internet authority, whether that's good or bad, that good friend of the show, Paul Feinbaum, said that Nick Saban's legacy is on the line this year. That's a myth. If that was said, if that's the context, we have to just go on divergent ideological paths there. That's kind of a myth. Saban could go 0-12 this year, and his legacy's set. He doesn't need to do a thing. In fact, it would take off-the-field scandal at this point for Nick Saban's legacy to be unraveled. There's nothing he could do on a football field that would unravel his legacy. When I think of legacy, I think of something that is very, very hard to tarnish. Like, that guy's put together decades now of a career and a legacy. Well, my thing is, if it's able to be undone with an 8-4 season, what are legacies worth? It's the same thing as a reputation. Like, if you've got someone who has built up just a sterling reputation, and then they have one bad day with you, and I'm not talking about like a cataclysmic bad day. I'm just saying they're rude to you one day. Do you really allow that to torpedo their entire reputation? If the answer is yes, their reputation wasn't really made on that much to begin with. Nick Saban's legacy is cemented. When I was a youth down in the South, I heard stories. I heard stories of Woody. I heard stories of Bear. I heard stories of Bo. I didn't meet any of these guys. I didn't get to watch them. I wasn't born yet. So they were just legends. They were kind of more mythological. They were ideas rather than men to me. And I always thought to myself, you'll never get to witness that. And lo and behold, I got to witness it. And not just as a fan. We get to cover Nick Saban's Alabama. That legacy's set. It's set for me. It's set for you. It's even set for Coach Feinbaum. Next up, as of this moment, Gelby, Quinn, I don't think we have breaking news out of North Carolina. So as of this moment, we don't have word from Chapel Hill as to whether Tez Walker is eligible. Again, if it's happened in the past hour, still pay attention to what I say, because it's still inexcusable that we got that far / have gotten this far. It's all about the kids is the biggest myth in college football right now. Now, for some of us, it actually is. For some of us, we actually do love to learn the names of the true freshmen. Sometimes we don't wait until they're true freshmen. Like, we love to celebrate the accomplishments of football players on a football field. For other people, it's a business, and that's okay if you're upfront about it. The worst of the worst are the folks who stand there in suits that are worth more than your scholarship, and they tell you, oh, we're in it for the kids. You're not. You can't even name the kids on the field right now. What you can do is you could give me the exact dollar and cents figure of your current media rights deal. And again, that's okay if you're upfront about it. We have people in Indianapolis, Indiana who watch the show who I'm great friends with. Unfortunately, you share a city with the NCAA, and I don't see an entity doing more damage to the fabric of the student athlete or standing in the way of the advancement of athletes' rights more than the NCAA right now. Not about the kids, never been about the kids. It's just they've been a little bit more upfront about it lately than they had been in the past. I appreciated the good old college try of hiding it in the past. They don't even hide it anymore. It is what it is. Next up, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Ryan Day's job is not in jeopardy, people. There's a myth out there that Ryan Day's job's in jeopardy. Ryan Day is, immunity. I wish I had Jesse in my ear right now, because Jesse would tell me the exact winning percentage of Ryan Day. It is either at or above anybody in terms of winning percentage of head coaches over the past few years. But he's lost to Michigan 2 years in a row. I am not ignorant, at least on this. I get how this works. I know how important the game is. I've been there the last 2 years. I grew up on this stuff. It's just I try and apply a little bit of logic. And if you're telling me that Ohio State goes and loses 31-27 in the Big House late November and that's it regardless of what he did the rest of the year, you're high. There's no way that's the way that works. There's no way that's the way that can work. And the reason a lot of people think Ohio State's the best job in college football, or one of the very best, is because of the stability at head coach long term, and because they make good decisions typically. That would not be a good decision. So that's a myth. That's not happening. Next up, good one right here. Kind of synonymous with the whole playoff spiel earlier. You have more to look forward to than just 2024. Full disclosure, I work for CBS. I work for 24/7 Sports, and they have a job to do. And I'm sure every Monday from now until the end of the season, there'll be an article on the front page of our website that says, if we had a 12-team playoff this year, this is what the current rankings would look like. But I don't have to click on it. It's not good business practice to tell you not to click on it. I'm just saying I don't have to click on it, and you can decide to live your lives however you want to. We could have a great year this year. We have no clarity at the top. There is no slam dunk favorite. You've got folks like me picking Bama and Ohio State to play for a national title, and we don't know the quarterback situation there. So that is the kind of chaotic recipe, or at least those are the chaotic ingredients you have in the kitchen prior to seasons like 2007. And it's hard to predict that kind of thing, part two. But, man, 2024 will be here when it gets here. Celebrate 2023. You may come to find that you miss it down the road, even some of you who rail against the current format. Next up, an eternal lie, an evergreen myth. If you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Lies, lies, lies. We watched Alabama in the past have Tua and Jalen there. How stupid would it be to say, well, guess I don't have a quarterback? No, they had two. It's the same reason we don't use the word controversy on this show when we're talking about a quarterback competition. No one ever says outside linebacker controversy. They just call it a competition. When you have more than one good player at those positions, that's not controversial. Let me tell you what's controversial. when you have no good players at those positions. That's controversial. I don't think that's the case at Ohio State. I don't think that's the case at Alabama right now. I could be wrong. It has happened a time or two, although usually it's kids, coaches, or officials who mess it up, not me being wrong. But I don't think that's the case. And so I never really preach that on the show. If you have two quarterbacks, you got two quarterbacks. If you got no quarterbacks, well, then you just got a problem. And, yeah, that is very controversial. Lastly, kind of also an evergreen statement here, but let's just go ahead and knock it out of the way. 2023 or not, Notre Dame doesn't play anyone. Well, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. They always do. This is a really bad week for us to talk about this, Jesse and Colin, now that I think about it, because they happen to play Tennessee Tech this weekend. Tennessee State, I can't remember which one. Tennessee State. Irregardless, as Meemaw would say, they play Southern Cal this year. They're the preseason favorite to win the Pac-12. They play Clemson this year. They're the preseason favorite to win the ACC. They play Ohio State this year. They're the preseason favorite to win the Big Ten, unbeknownst to some of you. That's not an easy schedule. It's not. It's just they don't play in a conference, and some of you take it personal, and that's okay. You don't have to pull punches with Notre Dame, but let's also acknowledge the truth. They play a pretty decent schedule, and it doesn't have to be top 5, but it's not bottom 5 either. They play a pretty decent schedule. So those are some of the myths. I just want to get out of the way. I wanted to air those grievances. It's like 98 degrees here right now, so I'm already pretty hot, as you can see, but I wanted to get that out of the way. Don't fall for the myths.